You treat these patients with vitamins and vitamin D. These patients really don't need much treatment because they are
हाँ,
asymptomatic. Stage 1 is a patient, they are called as a group D
बोलो।
patients, and
अच्छा,
they are symptomatic, but there are no comorbidities in there. So what are the symptoms?
अच्छा।
What we see usual: fever, dry cough, shortness of breath, myalgia, resting
हाँ, मोटे ने
tachycardia,
घड़ी घड़ी फोन करे क्या रे
neutrophil
चंद्रेडी थी।
lymphocyte ratio is more than 3.5. These are the symptomatic patients. So in addition to the above investigation, we may have to see pulse oximetric saturation in this patient, and we have to do X-ray to see any shadows, like the small linear shadows are there. So even small linear shadows would mean that this patient can develop large shadows later on. These are the patients in whom we can consider now antiviral, like a favipiravir, which is available orally, which we can give in the dose of 1800 milligram BD. So 200 milligram tablet, you have to give 9 tablet morning and evening. I have not seen much side effect of this drug. Nobody has complained me to nausea vomiting despite of giving 9 tablet twice in a day. Now this drug is luckily available with our hospital since last 2 months without any hesitation. Are you inpatient in whom you are not able to give 5 for some reason, then you may consider to give hydroxychloroquine 400 milligram BD followed by 200 for first day, followed by 200 milligram BD for 4 days. And of course, you have to give the above mentioned vitamins also along with that. Not only that, you have to monitor the ECG of these patients 12 hourly to start with, especially if you are giving the hydroxychloroquine or if you are giving even favipiravir. Okay, favipiravir also can cause various side effects. We'll come to that point later on. In group C, in stage 1 only, there are patients who can have, in addition to symptoms, they have other risk factors. Their age is more than 60, they have diabetes, they have hypertension, they may have ischemic heart disease, may have COPD, chronic kidney disease, immunocompromised host, obesity. These are the risk factors. Apart from that, some of the patients, even young, have undergone some organ transplant and they also may have symptoms. In that case, you have to be more careful and you have to see the warning signals. The warning signals can be in the form of tachycardia. They may have exercise induced desaturation in about 3 to 6 minutes and PO to often refer to ratio you have to see. Similarly, you see the neutrophil and lymphocytes in CBC and ratio of more than 3.5 is also supposed to be a warning signal. You also have to estimate the CRP, C-reactive protein, serum ferritin, D-dimer, LDH, and triglycerides in these patients. All these, you know, investigation would is pointing towards the inflammation and severity, and then you can make the diagnosis that this patient is severe. So these are the patient in whom again you give the favipiravir twice, 1800 milligram twice, to be given between 7 to 14 days. Unlike previously, we gave for a shorter time, 7 days. Here, you have to give for 14 days in some cases. And we have seen that after giving favipiravir, there's a regression in the symptoms of the patient. But in addition, you have to treat these patients for infections, which because almost 30% of the viral pneumonias have super infections by bacteria. And therefore, we always tend to give cefixime 200 milligram BD, or you may give your augmentin, what we call as coamoxicillin, in dose of 625 milligram thrice in a day. And of course, you have to give the vitamins which we give for stage A and B patients. And if there is a rest D dimer, then in that case, you may have to also inject once in a day enoxaparin or low molecular weight heparin. Now, stage 2 can be further divided into A, that is called group D. Those without, they have a pneumonia, but they have no respiratory failure. Respiratory failure means when the person is not able to meet the oxygenation, then we said that he's gone into respiratory failure. So he's not able to maintain, his saturation has become 93%, sorry, saturation is more than 93%, and the respiratory rate is around 24 or more than that. But arterial PO2 is more than 60. So in that case, it's not into respiratory failure, and therefore it doesn't need any oxygen. But other parameters also you have to see, and early signs of warning like PO2 apanoid ratio, CRP, ferritin, D-dimer, LDH, and triglyceride will give you clue toward the seriousness of the patient. Such a group D patients are also given, and they are admitted in the hospital and given favipiravir, same for 14 days, between 6 days to 14 days, and in that case you have to give cephalosporin. Usually ceftriaxone is given. You can give OD dose also, that is sufficient to kill the bacteria. And if rest D dimers are there, in that case you may give low molecular weight heparin 40 milligram as subcutaneous dose. And of course you supplement with the vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc sulfate in these patients. Now stage 2B, group D, where the patient has gone to respiratory failure, means there is real problem of gas exchange, where the rate of respiration is very high and SpO2 has dropped less than 94%. The arterial PO2 after taking arterial blood gases has also dropped less than 60. And of course, other blood investigations are also pointing towards high inflammation in these patients. In those patients, in addition to these medications, you also look at the troponin I and CPK-MB, whether they are affecting the myocardium also, apart from doing interleukin 6 level to see any cytokine storm. Okay, so in this patient, appropriate oxygen therapy has to be given by nasal cannula. If is able to maintain the saturation at around 94 and more than that, that is sufficient. But suppose the patient is not able to maintain, then you may give the masks, Venturi mask, or you may give non-rebreathing mask. And beyond that also, if it is not possible to maintain the oxygenation, then high flow nasal cannulas are given in the rate of 30 to 60 liters per minute. But if a patient is not able to maintain the oxygenation despite of that, then these patients are given non-invasive ventilation in the hospital. But despite of that, if the patient is going into further desaturation and is developing the hypercapnia, elevated PCO2, drop in pH, such are the patient in whom without hesitation we have to intubate them and mechanically ventilate them. Now these patients who desaturated have to be given appropriate COVID awake repositioning protocol, it is called as. Means it is intended that you can actually make the homogenization of the different airways and alveoli which have collapsed. So you can open them by giving the different positions. The position can be left lateral, right lateral, then prone position, then sitting position at 60 to 90 degree, and sometimes the Tendelbach position where the head is made low around 20 to 30 degree. So these are the positions which can be given to the patient. Prone position is very difficult to be given, and we have taken the history of the doctors who have undergone the prone position, and they said that it is so difficult. But you have to go, you have to put the pillows uh, in the chest and the bed, and you have to really make him prone so that distribution of oxygenation can be there. The collapsed alveoli are open. Prone position has been practiced by us almost 25 years now, and this is not a new technique, and this is not only a technique to be made available for COVID pneumonia. It is to be given for all ARDS patients, irrespective of the etiology of the ARDS. So prone position is one of the modality to improve the oxygenation. That prone position has to be given around 12 to 18 hours. But we have seen the side effects of prone position. Patients can get bed sores, then he has oral facial sores, sometimes ear sores are there, sometimes the back sores are there. So there are side effects of that. But when you are giving prone position, you have to see that the patient is not so bad hemodynamically. That also you have to see. You have to give the support by hemodynamic, giving noradrenaline, dopamine, etc. Apart from that, drug treatment for these patients have to be given injection remdesivir, 200 milligram stat. The next dose will be 100 milligram to be given for 4 days. If the patient is on mechanical ventilation, in that case, remdesivir can be given for total duration of 10 days. You don't have to go after 10 days because viral replications, viral shedding is minimized or stopped by the end of the 10 days usually in patients who go for ERDS. Then you may also give hydroxychloroquine if you don't have remdesivir or favipiravir. You may give hydroxychloroquine, and we have given this drug initially. But the use of this drug in serious patients is limited, that we have to agree to it. Apart from that, these patients are very serious and they can get hospital-acquired pneumonias, and therefore drugs like piperacillin tazobactam is given. Apart from that, you have to give anti-inflammatory drugs like a MPS, methylprednisolone. The drug is given in 40 milligram IV BD dose. If that is not available with you, you can give injection dexamethasone, which is seen in NHS patient, National Health Services in UK. They have come out with good results. In these patients, there are usually raised D dimers, they are increased CRPs, serum ferritin, and we tend to give almost all patients low molecular weight heparin, even though some of the serum markers may not be really high, but these patients are serious and they have multiple thrombotic lesions in pulmonary capillaries and pulmonary arteries. And therefore, these patients have to be given 40 milligram of low molecular weight heparin. And if IL-6 is raised, then tocilizumab is given in dose of 400 milligram to be dilated in 100 cc NS. You can give over a 2 to 4 hours. Okay, so this is the management for this patient group E. Now we have a very serious group where you have a sepsis along with pneumonia. Sepsis, as I mentioned, multi-organ dysfunction. These patients have kidney problems due to this virus. They have liver problems. They have a drop in the blood pressure. And these patients are in ERDS in addition to the above signs. And they have marker which are raised. So in addition to this, you have to do their continuous monitoring you have to do apart from troponin and CPK-MB and these markers. You have to do the blood cultures of the patients. But these patients continue to go on ventilator for pretty long time, and therefore you may have to do the culture sensitivity of the blood also, of the sputum also, and you have to give the support for hospital acquired pneumonia, and that is given by injections of meropenem, which is given 1 gram 3 times a day, in addition to antiviral drug like remdesivir, in addition to treating the cytokine storm by tocilizumab. Tocilizumab in the first choice, you give 400 milligram. Usually the cytokine storm occurs between 2 to 5 days, but sometimes late cytokine storms are also seen, but they are not seen in majority of the patients. The first dose can be adequate. The second dose are necessary in only few of the patients. Low molecular weight heparin is given apart from giving mechanical ventilation as per ERDS. That is, you give the low tidal volume, keep the pressure lower and lower, otherwise this patient can develop VILI, ventilator induced lung injury. Okay, so these points if you note, you can treat the serious patients, and some of the serious patients including our senior people have come out of these problems even at the age of 70 years also. So what is cytokine storm? Cytokine storms is manifested by fever. They have hepatosplenomegaly. They have lung involvement in the form of PRDS. And these patients, if you some of the patients, they have cytopenia, pancytopenia or pancytopenia. So these patients are having coagulopathies. They may have lung involvement, liver involvement, splenic involvement, and they have wrist markers. So if you take into consideration, these are the patients who are in cytokine storms. So what is the management? Usual guidelines were to give 500 milligram in the beginning. Now, because of the serious side effects that are seen in the form of hyperglycemia, sometimes fungal infections, in that case, now the new guidelines are saying that we have to give the lesser dosage of the methylprednisolone. That is, but in our setup, we give 500 milligram initially once in a day for 3 days, and after that we decrease the dose because these are the too much serious patients. So no, you don't have any chance for them to recover if you give lesser amount of the methylprednisolone. These are the criteria which we have discussed, that if the patients are high respiratory rate, low PO2, and all other organ involvement, then these people have to be shifted to ISO or ICU. Away, this also we have discussed, COVID awake repositioning and proning positions. All positions can be tried where saturation improves, that is best, but you have to change it every 2 hourly and see whether the saturation is maintained. Because in one position, patient does not really remain stable, and then he keeps on complaining, give me other positions. So we have to take care of the patients. The contraindications are like a patient with who has got PO to FNAP2 ratio less than 100, non-invasive ventilation. But actually, we have given the patients this CARP position even with 100% FiO2, and they have improved. So you have to select the patients. If they are hemodynamically better, then you don't have to worry. If they don't have hypercapnia, then you don't have to worry. You continue to give them repositioning, and they should not have any altered the mental status, and they should not have multi-organ failure. Like sometimes the patient may have slightly raised creatinine. You need not worry about giving the CARB position. You continue to give. Probably experience is the best teacher, and therefore I would say that as per experience, you may treat these patients based on the guidelines. These are the different positions that you can see in these patients. Okay. So now, what is the discharge criteria? Discharge policy has been changed. Previously, all patients used to care for longer time until they were COVID negative by SWOT method. But the government has revised its policy, maybe because the problem has escalated, and you can see almost many patients become negative swab at the end of 10 days. But despite of the whether they are negative or no, they have to be discharged, okay, because they become less risky to the society after 10 days. The viral shedding decreases. In few of the patients, the viral shedding may remain, but you can then choose them and isolate them. Moderate cases, of course, you have to improve the oxygenation and discharge after 10 days of the symptoms onset. And symptoms not resolved and demand of oxygen therapy continues, discharge only after resolution of the clinical symptoms. Here, sometimes I have seen some patients, mild cases, that they have a self-limiting course. But those moderate cases, they recover within 2 weeks. But severe cases may take even 6 weeks sometimes. We had some patients admitted with us 48 days also. And even at 40 days, due to the damage to the lung parenchyma leading to lung fibrosis, or they have even ground glassing at that point even, they cannot be discharged because they require the oxygen. In them, you can give long-term oxygen treatment and remove them after 3 to 6 weeks. Again, such a patients we have treated with steroids, and there is a benefit of steroids in this patient. Few of even our doctor friends also had such a type of fibrosis. In young doctors, I have seen the fibrosis reversing in around 8 to 12 weeks. So we have to do the CT scan at the end of 3 months and 6 weeks. What we call, or what we have learned, pseudopneumonia or pseudobronchiectasis due to pneumonia is an entity where you may have pseudofibrosis for a long period. After 6 months, we will get an idea whether this will resolve or not. So all patients who have developed fibrosis or continue to be breathless, they have to be subjected up at the end of 6 months for HRCT, and then you will come to know. Vaccine, we are in quadri. We do not know how long it is expected that vaccine will come in the mid of 2021. And we hope for this. There are some difficulties in getting vaccine. There are some trials going on, multiple trials are going on. These are various companies which are conducting trials. Some of them enroll some of the volunteers also. So vaccine will take time. Of course, we have to still study the behavior of this virus in Indian people. We are not 100% aware by now also, after 6 months of pandemic treatment also. So this virus, viral vaccine would take a little bit more time to come. Hope that we get